Welcome back to another episode of We Don't Know What to Watch, the podcast where two guys watch movies based on the random power of internet algorithms. With me, as always, is the incredible, the Clint Eastwood to my John Wayne, Kyle Mulford, and I'm Noah Saturn.
No, Saturn, I am looking for a man to do a podcast with, and he's got to be a man of true grit. Oh, did that give
Yeah,
did that
sound
give away
like
the
we got
movie?
the right man, Pilgrim.
you, I mean, we're going a remake. I could have been the Jeff Bridges to your John Wayne there.
That's true. Want to be less obvious.
Less obvious, yeah, I suppose that makes sense. So if you haven't figured it out yet, we did a True Grit, the
Yes,
remake.
the 2010 edition of True Grit, written and directed by the Coen brothers.
So, well, let's get into it. Well, first of all, worth noting, nominated for 10 Academy Awards, won 0, but it's one of the most nominated films ever to win 0 awards.
Nice.
But it is on also a list of like 17 or 18 movies of someone getting nominated for a character that another actor has previously won an Oscar for. So, because apparently John Wayne won Best Actor for
Yes, he did win for True Grit.
True Grit.
Yes,
So,
Jeff Bridges was nominated, even though he had just won the year before.
yeah. So, he just won the year before, so they had to give it to someone else.
Hmm. Unless you're Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Just give it to him every year. Apparently, this is based on a novel by a guy named Charles Portis. He wrote it in 1968, and then the first movie came out in 69. And I guess the Coen brothers told Jeff Bridges, they said, just forget that the John Wayne Rooster Cogburn exists, and they wanted to go more true to the book, and then just have Jeff Bridges do his own version of
Hmm.
Rooster Cogburn. So, and and I think that he did a good job of doing his own thing. Although I think this is the start of the really mumbly Jeff Bridges.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because I feel like this is one of the first ones where he started doing the gravelly, I can't understand what the hell you're saying voice. But you could still understand him in this, but then watch everything after this film, and he's progressively more and more just like, what are you even saying anymore? I don't even know. Watch him in The Seventh Son if you really want to watch that movie.
I forgot about Seventh Son existing.
I saw that movie. But no, I think that was a character choice for him, though. It really felt like a character choice on his part, and then it just kind of followed him for the rest of his career now. This is another thing to note is this is the last film that Roger Deakins shot on film before moving to digital. I read,
Huh.
and of course Roger Deakins works with the Coen brothers a lot, and that's why a lot of their movies are gorgeous because Roger Deakins is an amazing cinematographer.
One of the best in the biz.
Yes. But anyway, getting into the movie.
Uh, Basic plot overview. A hired man kills the guy he's working for, and then the guy's daughter is out for revenge, and she wants to hire someone to go after this guy, even if he's off in Indian territory.
Yeah, she's looking for a man with true grit.
A mean man who can go all the way and bring back that Tom Cheney, so will hang for the murder of my father, Frank Ross.
Yeah, and she's really gung ho about it. She's only 14, and this is actually the very first. This is the feature film debut of Haley Steinfeld.
Yeah,
Steinfeld.
she's had a pretty good career so far. It's good to see her still going.
Yeah, apparently there was like tens or hundreds of thousands of girls who auditioned for this role, and she got it, and this was her first movie role. And yeah, she has had a good career. I really like her. The Age of 17 was a really good movie. Bumblebee was actually back to good form with Transformers movies, so Bumblebee was good. Yeah, so I hope she goes on to do good things. And she really was excellent in this, and I can see why she was nominated. And for only being a teenager at the time, because I want to say she was a teenager.
Yeah, she was actually 14.
Yeah, so to get to be 14 and this be your first movie acting against Matt Damon and Jeff Bridges, and then you've got others that like you got Barry Pepper in there and Josh
Josh Brolin.
Brolin, and so yeah, it was kind of a good cast there to have you as your first movie, and then all these nominations, Academy Award nominations for it. Just that's a hell of a first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she finds this U.S. Marshal who's kind of a drunk and washed up drunk, and hires him to go find these guys or this one man. And while he's out there, they run across a Texas Ranger. No, don't mess with the Texas Rangers.
Texas Ranger LaBeef,
LaBeef.
played by Matt Damon in the original. He was in the 1969 version. He was played by Glenn Campbell,
Where is LaBeef?
something like that. And I really like the dynamic between Rooster Cogburn and LaBeef because they're always just like making fun of each other the whole time.
Yeah, they really worked well together, and she was good because it's like the character was really good at kind of bringing them back down a little bit and keeping them I don't know from completely going at each other's throats, I guess, and keeping it playful instead of just angry. Uh, but one interesting choice I found in this movie, which at first bothered me, then I just kind of went with it and it worked, was the the dialogue choice for this film, the way that it was written and performed. I don't know if you noticed that there are not a lot of contractions used, and so it just gave it this really weird like feel to the dialogue that not natural is what it was. It didn't feel natural.
Well, also, I think some of them were exact lines from the first one because I happened to have both versions of it on DVD, so I watched both of them like the day we're recording.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something you noticed too. That
I did, and I think some of that is, especially in Maddie's dialogue, she speaks in very complete sentences because, that's kind of how she grew up. She's very well educated,
yeah.
as opposed to someone like Rooster Cogburn, who's not nearly as educated. And, in this version, they mention how he can't really spell.
Yeah, but I did notice that like it is still in the script though, because every character, even Rooster Cogburn, would like even when he would use words that like and phrases that were a little more broken and a little more simple or like not grammatical or whatever grammatically correct, he would also there would be points where he would not use contractions where especially with his character you would think he would,
Hmm.
and so it just gave it this weird like the dialogue just this I don't even know how to describe it because like I said it didn't feel entirely natural, but it really worked since every character was speaking this way.
Yeah, I think it did work, and I enjoyed it. The Coens always have a unique ear for dialogue.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that the story, and I've seen the original probably a year or two ago, and I remember enjoying that. Don't remember it real well. I do remember I did remember the basic premise. So like, and I remembered some of the stuff being very similar, like crossing the river at the beginning, and she follows them across the river on the horse, and I kind of vaguely remember that being in the original as well. And
Hmm.
so there was, I'm sure there was a lot of similarities. I like how they were like, oh, we're gonna do this closer to the book. So what's John Wayne wore the eye patch on his left eye, but Jeff Bridges wore it on his right eye.
I didn't notice. That's funny.
But I don't know what else to say about the movie. I like I said, this is kind of the start of the mumbly Jeff Bridges, and I really enjoyed his character, especially that morning that like he was totally drunk and then trying to shoot the food and everything he's throwing the bottles and the food he's throwing up in the air. And like you said, the interaction between him and Matt Damon, and I liked Matt Damon's character and just this honorable, like he wants to do like the right thing, the honorable thing, whereas like Rooster Cogburn's a little bit like there's even a dialogue in there. He doesn't take too many prisoners alive, does he? Something like that. So he's just kind of more of a I'm going to go kill them and turn them in.
Yeah, and this movie spends more time on the journey. Well, it felt like in 1969 version they spent more time in the town, just kind of getting to know Maddie. But they still get to know Maddie because in this one, Maddie actually narrates this one in the beginning and the end. Well, in the first one, it just kind of starts with just like life on the farm, and you actually do get to see Frank Ross and Tom Chaney go to town, and you do witness the crime of Tom shooting Frank.
Yeah, I thought that that was in the original, but yeah, this one is just kind of a quick narration, like you said, and then boom, you're into it and you're off to the races there. So
Also, just in general, like what the characters were wearing, they're learning about kind of darker, more muted colors, browns. Well, more famously in the first version, one of the things that really stands out, at least about John Wayne's outfit, is he's wearing this kind of bright red scarf that he wears through the whole film.
yeah, and
And the environment plays a bigger factor in the 2010 version because it takes place during winter, so everyone seems more bundled up. It snows occasionally versus the other one, which feels more like just kind of generic springtime.
yeah, that was the one thing I do remember thinking about the original was it was just a very plain western. Like it didn't feel like it had, for being something that John Wayne got one best actor for and all of that stuff, and being such a highly regarded film. I was like, it really felt like just another John Wayne western to me when I watched it. Not saying it was bad. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't feel like there was a lot that made the story distinguished from anything else, you know.
But I think what made that one work, at least to my mind, is it's really anchored on John Wayne's performance and the interplay that he has with both Maddie and with LaBeef. Because that particular Rooster Cogburn is very quippy. He always has like a line or a one-liner for everything. There's even a few jokes like at one point, like he's talking and then like drinking out of a bottle at the same time, and then he just like it's like all right. So then he's just like at one point he just kind of he's so drunk that he falls off his horse and then just says, "We'll rest here tonight."
The character choice, the other character thing that I liked about Jeff Bridges Cogburn was how he would just ramble on just to pass the time. You like you're cutting and they're walking through the forest and he's telling Maddie about his like ex-wife, and then like they cut and he's like going on to another story, like just like telling his life history, but not. I think is just, it felt like it was just talking to be talking to pass the time, and I kind of liked that as
Yeah,
well.
and they even reuse some of the same lines about him having a kid and leaving one wife and going to one place, and then
Yeah. And then, just kind of the use of foreshadowing in this film was pretty good. Telling his story about riding against these guys. Oh, there was seven of them, and I rode fast and hard on them. They must have had families at home because they all turned and ran, and then what's his big plan at the end is to just ride at them, and
hmm
so there was a lot of good foreshadowing in the film with the stories and making it feel natural in how it plays out. So I think the script is well written, and I don't know if that's because the source material, the novel, is well written, or if it was spruced up a little. But I don't know who wrote. Did the Coen brothers write the script too, or
they always write their own stuff,
yeah? So I wonder if you know, they're good filmmakers, so they know what works. And
and they know how adaptation works well too, because this was 3 years after they did No Country for Old Men, and that's a very very close adaptation.
yeah. So yeah, it's very well directed, and I didn't mind the narration bookends either.
I think it works, and the endings are definitely different, but kind of the finales are very close to the same. And the scene where they go meet the two guys in the cabin, that takes place at night in this version versus just daytime. My guess is because they didn't want to shoot at night.
Actually, what with which for which one for this
Uh,
one?
for this one, that scene takes place at night where they meet the two guys, and they're slowly gonna go for like meeting, and then like waiting it out for Lucky and Ned Pepper.
Oh well, what I read about this film was that Haley Steinfeld being only 14 at the time, due to child labor laws. There was a lot of night scenes, but they couldn't, it was challenging because they could not shoot past midnight. And so then there are some scenes, I guess, where, night scenes where if it's an over the shoulder shot of her talking to someone else at night, they would just use a stunt double. So because of the, yeah, like the labor laws and all that. So I thought that was an interesting little trivia nugget there. So, but I found it interesting that child labor laws for film is, and I'd be interested to read more into this because it said, well, they couldn't film past midnight, and I'm going, that's your cutoff time for for kids filming, really? That's just that's it's like, if you're going to midnight, why not go till 1 or 2 in the morning? Really,
I
honestly.
don't know. Union rules are union rules, right? So
Yeah, but I liked that all three characters were really well developed and had their own motivations. Where it's like, Rooster Cogburn, I feel, is just a washed up drunk who is just taking this for the money. He just likes to get his man, turn him in, get the money. LaBeef has this sense of justice, and he really wants to hunt these guys down and take them in and get them properly turned in, even if they're going to hang them anyway. He wants
hmm
to actually capture them and take them in. And then Maddie's got her own sense of justice, where it's like she knows that LaBeef is looking for this guy because he's committed all these other crimes and he's been chasing him forever. But he's like, I want to take him into our town because I want him to pay for the crime against my dad. I want to know that he's being punished for this particular crime, not the other ones. I want to know that I want him to know he's being punished for this crime. So she's really gung ho about like him knowing that, hey, you're going down because not because you did all these other bad things in your past, but because you killed my dad.
hmm And the finale's pretty much the same in a few different ways. Yeah, LaBeef does get hit on the head in both versions. He dies actually he dies on screen in the 1969 version because like he had been hit in the head and maybe had been shot too when he was fighting Cheney at the end. And then he decides, and then like as he's sort of like using his horse to pull them out of the hole with the rattlesnakes, is like after the end he kind of slowly just like slumps over and dies.
Oh, that's too bad. uh, another interesting tidbit I found was that, and we're getting into, I mean, we've gotten into spoiler territory already because we usually do, but at the end you find out that she still lost her left arm because of the snake bite, and then it goes to 25 years later, and her as an adult who's narrating, and she goes to try and visit Cogburn again, but finds out that he passed away. Well, the person who plays the adult Maddie, gets credit or whatever, but she's actually on screen less than her stunt double because all of the shots of her walking and everything is an actual person who was born with no left arm.
That's neat.
So the person who plays the adult Maddie is only acting in the close-ups where she's talking, and
That's
then
funny.
and then the rest is, if you notice, it's all silhouettes. So it's the stunt double. Uh, yeah, there's not much else to say about it. Great cinematography, uh,
uh,
good
Maddie
characters.
Maddie's arm is saved in the 1969 version, and then they don't go forward in time. It stays in that kind of the 18. It stays in the same time period where Rooster ends up. She like in they do see like their father Frank Ross's burial, and then she invites Rooster like, all right, you can stay with us for a while if you want to, because you did save my life and everything, and went through this incredible journey together.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I suppose that's a very. I wonder if that's one of the variations from the book that the Coens went back to the original ending of, or because that's one thing I saw is that they tried to be closer to the book than the original film was. So I wonder if that's a change the original film made to the book.
And another big musical motif in this one was for the hymn on Everlasting Arms, which is sort of the piano tune you hear, and then the song that is someone sings at the end of this version. That was just for this version. I think they might have just picked it because it sounded that hymn because it was kind of the era that the movie takes place in, and the kind of all the religious references. Starts with a Bible quote. You see that Maddie is a pretty religious person. Well, and the other one is just like, hey, here's a Western score by Elmer Bernstein, not anything super memorable.
Yeah. Oh, another thing about Maddie's character is she really is well developed in this, because you get a lot of her in the beginning before she even meets Cogburn, and I love her interactions in the town because you just really get that sense of independence from her when she's talking to the coffin maker and is like, "Well, you told me this price, and now I don't have any money because you're taking this much. I'm just going to sleep here if that's all right with you." And it's like, and then when she goes to talk to the guy and just manipulates that guy who sold the horses to her father, it's like, my lawyer is going to hear about this, and it's like, you're going to give me this much money for this, and blah blah blah, and like just I, her quick talking, like, and and being so educated and everything. It was fun to watch, like a child like take down adults, just just with her intelligence and wit and all that. So, and you really get to know her character before she even meets Cogburn.
Yep, and yours definitely more of like a fiercer, independent look than Kim Darby's performance, who does fine, but I think Haley Steinfeld really takes it to kind of in a different area,
Yeah.
very, almost kind of very stiff. She definitely the kind of the person who had to grow up faster than they should have because she doesn't act like a regular 14-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. So that just
Uh,
made her character interesting. Yeah.
the lawyer actually appears in the 1969 version. He shows up for a couple scenes, and then well, this one it's just a voiceover. It sounded like J.K. Simmons.
I read that it is J.K. Simmons. So
Nice.
yeah,
Probably just like read the dialogue in like 10 minutes or something. It's like, yeah, all right, cool.
he's a lawyer. uh, I who doesn't love when J.K. Simmons shows up?
Agreed.
So, oh, and can we talk about Josh Brolin real quick? His He's supposed to be like this simpleton, like what everybody thinks of him as a simpleton, it's like, and he hates that, but like then when he's talking, he really is. But it looks like they made also a choice for his look too, because they gave him this mussed up hair. And they did you also notice they gave him a big old unibrow too? He looks like a Cro-Magnon man.
Yeah, maybe just a guy who really doesn't take care of himself.
Yeah, he really like comes across as this big, dumb, oafish, simple man, so who's just happens to be a criminal, but isn't really too bright. But yeah, I found that his look was an interesting choice too.
Also, in the 1969 version, Lucky Ned Pepper is played by Robert Duvall, and even back then he was losing his hair, so he's been bald for a very long time.
he was he was born bald and he'll die bald. uh, weren't we all? Yeah. So I guess would you recommend this film?
Oh, absolutely.
I
I'd recommend both versions.
And I'm gonna have to go ahead and say yes. I remember this coming out because it was what year did this come out?
2010.
2010, because I remember it getting nominated for all the awards, and I just didn't. It was another one of those movies I just didn't get around to seeing, and I'm kind of glad that I have now finally, because it is really an excellent film. So you got a double feature you'd put it with?
Yes, if I had to put a double feature with this one, I would pick a Western from the same basic era from like the 2000s onward. So I'd pick 310 to Yuma remake with Russell Crowe and Christian Bale.
And you just stole my thunder because I was thinking the same exact thing, because we kind of, the westerns started going away
In the 70s.
into the 70s. They started going away. 80s, you got a couple of fun, like Young Guns type westerns. So like they had this 80s feel to them. Then you get into the 90s and you get like what they call the deconstructionist westerns, with Unforgiven being the big one.
Yep, and they were still kind of following in the footsteps of the westerns, like spaghetti westerns from the 1960s, stuff like The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, and Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah, which is my all-time favorite western. And then you get into the 2000s and you start getting you get some interesting into more independent and lower budget westerns that are a little quieter, but then for big budget, you start getting these remakes. We've gotten 310 to Yuma, we got True Grit, and we got the Magnificent Seven remake. And so you're getting all these remakes. And I think of the ones to watch, I would really recommend watching True Grit and 310 to Yuma as well. Magnificent Seven felt a little too modern to me with Fuqua directing. It
I
felt
mean, you
like
got
it was,
Denzel Washington, so
yeah, it was okay. I mean, it was no original Magnificent Seven, but um, I think True Grit and 310 to Yuma actually hold up as really great remakes to well-renowned original westerns.
I have not seen the original 310 to Yuma.
I haven't either, but I that is one that I knew about, and I know that I have heard in the Western world that it is a good one. My dad used to watch a lot of westerns, and he says he really enjoys that one. So, but yeah, I agree with you. 310 to Yuma would be a good match with this one. But anyway,
In the end, we still did it again, where our main episode is shorter than our mini episode, at least as of this recording.
we got a lot more movies to talk about in our minis, so
That's true.
we need to call them something other than a mini episode, I guess.
I guess, well, yeah, like we just call them like what you're watching or something. That's
What
fine.
you
I should
watching?
just stop using the term mini episode. Anyway, so I'm thinking we should do for something since we're getting closer to Spooktober. We should get into spooky season.
Go into horror.
Yep.
All right, we're gonna go. I'm putting 90 or better on the real good because this thing is screwy. So we'll see how many times I have to spin this to get, and that's just to get it to be over over 70 score. I really wish they hadn't taken Rotten Tomatoes off of this.
Yeah.
Oh,
Spoon. Spoon.
okay. So
Spoon.
here's what we came up with, and I like this. Let's see if we can get it from the description here. When the Davison family comes under attack during their wedding anniversary getaway, the gang of mysterious killers soon learns that one of their victims harbors a secret talent for fighting back.
Uh, you're next.
Yes, you actually guessed it. Yay!
Oh, right. I haven't seen that one, but
Oh, you're in for a treat. So, yeah, this one is streaming free on Peacock.
all right.
So,
In my
uh,
brain, I get that one mixed up with like Ready or Not, and I haven't seen either of them.
Uh, I actually prefer your next. I've seen both of them. Ready or Not was still fun though. I like Samara Weaving, so
I just think, a family that made all their money off of board games.
yes.
Real board game designers don't make that much. Or either that, maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe it's like the Hasbro family.
I, it kind of feels that way in the movie. It's old money,
Yeah,
so it's like these. It's like a family from like these original board games that when board games used to be big. So it's
they
like,
invented chess.
yeah. So yeah. Anyway, streaming on Peacock. We'll watch Your Next for next time.
And until then, you can find me on Twitter at Noah_Saturn, SATERN.
You can find me on Twitter at AwesomeKM and find us on Instagram at We Don't Know What to Watch. I've kind of gotten into the habit of just what I do is I snap a picture of the title screen of the whatever movie I'm watching and just post that. So
Nice.
hopefully people will pop on and see that and mention whether they've seen the movie or not and get a conversation going. But anyway, yeah, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter and even email us at we don't know what to watch at gmail.com. We don't
And,
usually plug that much, but hey, it's out there.
and lastly, Lucky Ned Pepper, I'm here to kill you in 1 minute.
I'm gonna kill you 1 minute. Yeah, till next time. Find yourself a man with true grit.
Uh huh. Too true, too grit.
Too true, too grittier. Too
Yep.
grittiest, the grittiest, the truest and the grittiest.
Yes. And then it's just called like five, like true five, and then grit six or something. And then
The grit and the fabulous. I don't know.
exactly. So to True Grit, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Yes. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
All right, bye bye.